Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. This is another awesome episode being partially recorded in the car while I am driving because it is free, so you cannot complain if you hear any background noise because the subscriber ones are always from my basement. So you should just rest assured that if you subscribe, you will never hear any background noise at all because those are specially recorded in my basement studio, meaning where I do my therapy. It is not a studio at all. So anyhow, today we are going to talk about why your wife doesn't really care if your sex life isn't mind-blowing, which in and of itself is a mind-blowing revelation to many men. But I have a handy-dandy analogy to make you understand, and we will go right into that as soon as I tell you to subscribe, because not only are all of the subscriber episodes not recorded while driving, but also they are really good, and I'm going to be up to number 70 soon, and I have all sorts of great topics, and there was why stay-at-home moms get depressed, and there was ones about sex, and there were ones about relationships, and there were one most recently about why your wife does not want to have sex if you've just yelled at the children, why she does not consider that to be a very masculine aphrodisiac, like some sort of Axe body spray, but rather to be something that is real, more like a chastity belt for her. So you should definitely subscribe. And so let's get into today's topic. So there's so many guys who are like so anxious that their wife is sexually unsatisfied, and it's like so funny because like women don't think about this, as I've really tried to make clear and hammer home. Monogamous women think about their sex lives approximately never, unless it is a complete dumpster fire, meaning that the guy doesn't even know they're supposed to have an orgasm. So as long as they are having an orgasm, most women are like, oh, okay. And then they wait until it happens the next time. They legitimately, this should be good news. Some of you could take it as bad news if you're already negative types of thinkers. But women do not think about this that much. They really don't. It has nothing to do with how attractive you are or whatever. Monogamous women do not sit there, unless they are very different than almost every woman that I know. They do not, or work with, they do not sit there and fantasize about their husband of many years in bed. They don't. They don't because they don't have as much testosterone as you do, and it's monogamy, and they are mothers, 99% of the people listening to this, And so if you are a mother, you are thinking about your children at the same level as the guy is thinking about sex. So the guy has sex on the back burner of his mind all the time during the day. That's what the kids are for the woman. The kids are in the back burner of her mind all of the day. If she's ovulating, maybe she'll think about sex. I said if she sees a hot guy, she may think about sex. If she just watched, 50 Shades of Grey, she may think about sex. But it's not going to be like how you think about sex. It is not even the same species. It is like, you are like a lizard and she is a mollusk. Like you are like completely different species in the animal family in terms of your sex drive. Those were just the ones I thought of, which is like weird, but those are the ones. My son has a reptile, and we just did some game where there was a snail. I forget what game. Headbands. This was an intellectual delight, as all children's games are. But anyhow, so she really doesn't think about your sex life. So unless every time she has sex with you, it's worse than the time before, and she hasn't had an orgasm since 1994, she's probably not thinking about anything. If you are in a situation where your wife never has an orgasm, and she's not on an antidepressant, and she's not on hormonal birth control, and she hasn't had sexual trauma, then you're probably not very good, in bed for her, and you got to learn. This is just the facts. This is just the facts of the matter. If your wife was unable to get you to have an orgasm, would you not think that she also would have to work on things? Truly, she would, right? So it's the same thing. But in the case, which is much more common, and for the people I see, that the woman has figured out how to have an orgasm during most encounters, then you're good to go. Like, unless she brings up some shit that you have to work on, you assume you don't have to work on anything. And now if you're saying, yeah, but like our sex life, it could be like mediocre. Who wants to be that? Who wants to be the mediocre sex life guy? Like, I want to be the excellent sex life guy. Here's the analogy I'm going to give you to change your life. You know how your wife is like super obsessive and crazy about her weight and her body, and you keep on saying, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. You're not telling her, no, you're a supermodel, because you're not a liar. She's not a supermodel. She's like in her 30s, 40s, 50s. She's not a supermodel, but she's beautiful to you. And as long as things don't really become a dumpster fire, you're going to be fine. You're going to still think that she's hot enough for you to be happy. And the amount that you're happy is not going to be very impacted by whether she gains 5 pounds or she goes more to the gym or what have you. So if you are in this more usual situation where you're a man who is attracted to his wife, you can certainly think of ways that her body could just be like this slamming goddess body if she like maybe, I don't know, had extensive CrossFit sessions and possibly plastic surgery, and she stopped eating solid food for a week or whatever. But like, this is not going to be a make or break sort of thing. And in fact, your innate happiness level would probably go up by like, I don't know, 5 percentage points max before you were back on the hedonic treadmill and you no longer cared about her body being a little bit hotter. This is how she cares about the sex life. Truly, truly. So it is not the same as you. It is not the same as you, where you think that if the sex life improved by 10%, your happiness would improve by 3,000%. It's not like that. It's just as stupid as when she says to you, but if I drop 5 pounds, wouldn't you think that I was so much hotter? If she's... If that's the thing, or if the thing is, if I didn't have cellulite, or if my ass was smaller, or if my ass was bigger, or if my boobs were smaller, if my boobs were bigger, whatever. And you're like, no, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't, honestly, notice, care, or whatever, and, probably instead you say, oh no, I would rather you be how you are because you're a nice guy. But either which way, it really wouldn't make that much of a difference to you. It really wouldn't, unless you're one of these few guys that I have interacted with that get obsessed with their wives' bodies, in which case this is no way to live. That's not being a very nice partner. And probably you want to go into therapy to think about why it bothers you so much if she gains 5 pounds. The people whose wives gain 100 pounds, obviously everybody understands, it's difficult when a partner has a profound change in how they look. I've written about this, I've spoken about this, etc. But if you are a man who is, I'll put it this way, it would be as uncommon for a man to give a shit if his wife gains 5 pounds as it would be for a woman to want her sex life to be 10 or 20%, quote, better. Which most women don't even have like an idea of what that would look like, so especially if they're already having an orgasm. If they're already having an orgasm, they're like, they've read the statistics. They know not every woman has an orgasm. They're already pretty proud of themselves. They're proud of you guys for having had sex. They think they did it. They are having a loving sexual marriage. And so they're fine. They are pretty much fine. Now but there's always a but. This is within the context of the more usual situation that I see, where the man is the higher libido partner. In the situation where the woman is the higher libido partner, then certainly she is thinking a lot about how the sex life is terrible and it's not what she wants, and she wants to be desired, and she wants to know what it is to be with a man who is really into her, etc., etc. Hold on. I thought that I wasn't recording anymore. What a travesty that would have been for you guys to have missed that whole rant. But anyhow, so the point I'm making is this. Unless you are in a situation where your husband does not give you any sex at all, and that makes you very, very upset, or he gives you way too little sex and you're always begging him for sex, which is terrible for your self-esteem. And that is, there are myriad reasons that could happen. I've, had a podcast recently on it may happen because of extensive marital conflict that saps his self-esteem and his will to live, or it could be his own issues such as low T, not being in good shape, being depressed, etc., sexual trauma, a range of things. But again, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the usual situation where it's a high libido man who has now become obsessive. Refer to my Preoccupied Attachment Husband podcast, by the way, because these two things go together always, pretty much. The guy has become preoccupied not just with whether she loves him, but if she is having the sex life of her dreams. She doesn't dream about sex. How much clearer do I have to be? Women do not think during the day, man, am I like truly sexually satisfied? This is something out of like, I don't even know what, like a MILF porn? I mean, I don't even know. It is nothing that is consistent with how women operate in reality. They do not go around saying things like that. Now, some of y'all are going to be like, yeah, but when we were fighting, my wife told me that she's never been sexually satisfied. Well, there's two ways to think about that. One is that she's really fucking mad at you for, I don't know what you did. I don't know what you didn't do. I don't know what she did or didn't do. But either which way, she's really mad at you. She knows it'll hurt you. It's not her finest moment, but she's kind of bullshitting. The sex life has been B minus, B plus over the years, and she's just mad at you now. Or you could be in the situation where you pretty much know it hasn't been a good sex life. If you let yourself think about it, you barely have sex, she barely has an orgasm, and you've been putting your head in the sand about it, which is the situation of some men. And then they get mad if their wife ever brings it up. Well, I mean, shit, it was kind of obvious anyway, and she just got sick of it enough to bring it up, but probably you knew it 10 years before. So those are the two different situations. That makes it no less painful to hear, but it is certainly not a situation that could have not been predicted if you were not with a regularly orgasming woman that you were having a regular sex life with. It's not a big shock that then she would have probably agreed with you that the sex life was subpar. So anyway, what are you going to get out of this and take away from it? Maybe if you're the type of person who's been following your wife around asking what you could do better in bed, or could, researching what online, how to give better cunnilingus or what have you, and instead of just listening to my oral sex podcast, which is subscriber only, if you're that guy, maybe you could stop being that guy. Maybe you could just have a conversation with your wife and be like, I'm always like asking you about if our sex life could be better, and you act kind of annoyed. Do you act annoyed because, as you've said to me, using your words overtly, our sex life is fine, and you mean that our sex life is fine? She'll be like, yeah, like I've been saying that. What are you talking about? Are you drinking? Are you drunk? Are you high? And you'll be like, no, I'm just trying to have an epiphany that you actually have said what you mean, and you actually are fine with our sex life. At that point, you also may want to introspect and realize that what you have been wanting all along and projecting, what you've been projecting onto your wife, is the desire for a more adventurous sex life that you yourself have. So, because you don't want to be like a selfish guy, you've been painting it as though, here I am doing all this research for my wife to enjoy herself better. But in reality, you're the one who's bored with the sex life. So in that case, own it. Don't keep on gaslighting your wife. Not that you're trying, but that's what the end result is, by saying shit like, I know you're not fully satisfied. What could I do? What could I do? She already said she's fine. She's having an orgasm. She's fine. She doesn't ever think about this except when you're up her ass about it, which makes her want to have sex less. So what you would want to do in that case is to say, oh, I would like to try this thing in bed. It's so easy. I'll do the script again so you can write it down. I would like to do blank in bed. And then you see what she says. I mean, some people who are so convinced that their wife would never try anything new have never even asked them to do anything, pretty much at all. They have maybe tried to move their wife around in some indeterminate, really vague fashion during the act, or they've made some sort of joke about a different sexual act, which their wife thinks of as a joke. And they have never actually directly said, hey, I think it would be fun to try X. Let's try X. I want to try X. There's some variations on a theme, but they all engage. They all are you engaging directly with the topic, not being shy, not being anxious, not being fearful, and rather being confident in that if you are married and you try to be a good guy and she is trying to be good too, then if you say that you want something, she may well try it. Many women do. And the men that say that the woman doesn't try anything, when we go a little bit deeper, what they mean is, there was this one time that I made this joke about blowjobs, and she acted repulsed, so I never brought it up again. And then one time we were watching this show on BDSM, I made a joke, she rolled her eyes, so I know that she's not into that. And I'm like, did you ever actually ask her to do this thing for you? And they're like, oh, no, because I already know what she wants. The next time they come back, if God is good and we are all lucky, they have gotten the courage to actually ask her. And honestly, 50% shot, they did it. They did the thing that the wife supposedly would never ever do, because a lot of guys don't even ask because they're so scared. And this, we could refer back to, I don't know if it's a podcast or I know it was a post, Stop Caring So Much What Your Wife Thinks. And now that I said it, I think I did it as a podcast too. So anyway, what you got to do, leave this conversation, one-sided conversation, but that's what we do here, and think, have I just not been trusting my wife? Have I been projecting on her some sort of rumination about our sex life that is really what I myself have? Is it possible that this is just as stupid to her as when she obsesses over whether her tits are saggy or whatever the problem of the day is that she thinks that I think about that I don't ever think about ever? Probably it is. So you can use this as a real breakthrough moment to say, women don't think the same as men about this usually, except of course, again, if you are the rare low libido man listening to my podcast. In that case, yeah, she's unhappy. She's really unhappy and you got to figure it out. I would get into couples counseling after you get the low T checked. But in the case that everybody is usually, and if they listen to my sex podcasts, they are the high libido male or the low libido woman who is being forced to listen by her high libido husband. And in that case, she's serious. She doesn't think much about the sex life at all. She thinks it's all right. If she wants to try something else, she may tell you. She may not. Show yourself to be open to sexual feedback, as I made a podcast about, by being a genuinely open, coachable, positive kind of dude. And in that case, she really may at some point say, no, I actually don't like X, I like Y. But she's never going to do that for two reasons. One, she really doesn't care enough, as I hope I have hammered home. And B, you respond like you're about to die. Like you've just been like, this is the, Julius Caesar getting sworded. What kind of word is that? Stabbed with a sword by Brutus. So if you act like that, she's never going to give you any feedback. But remember the new thing that you've learned, which is that she usually doesn't give a shit enough to tell you about feedback, because to her, this discussion is like listening to whether or not the cellulite on her ass makes you love her less. It is an annoyance to be powered through within a heterosexual relationship, and nothing that has any relevance to how you actually view the world, your relationship, your wife, her ass, anything. All right. Hopefully that was fairly straightforward and it added some sort of value to your life and to your day. And I will talk to everybody soon.